Have you ever wondered if people can truly change? What if someone who broke your heart was willing to do whatever it takes to earn your trust again? In today's story, we follow Emma, a strong and independent woman who finds herself caught in a whirlwind of betrayal, heartbreak, and an unexpected second chance at love. When a wealthy businessman, Lucas, makes a life-altering mistake, he's forced to confront his own flaws and fight to prove he's a changed man. Will Emma be able to forgive him? And can love really grow from the ashes of betrayal? Stay tuned, because this is a story you won't want to miss. The penthouse of Lucas Harrington was alive with the sound of laughter, clinking glasses, and the hum of conversation. The city skyline glittered through the floor-to-ceiling windows, a perfect backdrop for the lavish party he was hosting. Lucas, a young and wildly successful real estate investor, stood at the center of it all, exuding confidence and charm. His tailored suit and easy smile made him the undeniable star of the evening. Surrounded by his equally wealthy friends, Lucas sipped his whiskey as the conversation turned to the topic he loved most: power. Money, Lucas declared, swirling the amber liquid in his glass, is the ultimate tool. It can buy anything: success, respect, even love. His friends chuckled, but one voice cut through the laughter. Nathan, his oldest friend and the only one who dared to challenge him, leaned forward with a smirk. "Anything, huh?" Nathan said, his tone laced with skepticism. "You think money can buy love? Real love?" Lucas raised an eyebrow, slightly bored. "Of course, love is just another transaction. You find the right price, and anyone will fall in line." Nathan laughed, shaking his head. "You're so full of yourself, Lucas. I bet you couldn't even last 3 months in a real relationship with someone who isn't from your world, someone who doesn't care about your money or your status." The room fell silent, the air thick with anticipation. Lucas's pride bristled at the challenge. "And what exactly are you proposing?" Lucas asked, his voice calm but his eyes sharp. Nathan's gaze swept the room before landing on a young woman in the corner. She was dressed in a simple uniform, her hair tied back in a loose ponytail. Emma Collins, one of the cleaning staff, was quietly clearing empty glasses from a table, her movements efficient and unassuming. Nathan pointed at her. "Her. I bet you can't marry someone like her and make it work for 3 months. No fancy tricks, no shortcuts. Just you and her, living as husband and wife." Lucas's eyes narrowed as he studied Emma. She was nothing like the women he usually surrounded himself with. No designer clothes, no polished demeanor. She was ordinary, almost invisible. "You serious?" Lucas asked, a hint of disbelief in his voice. Nathan leaned back, grinning. "Dead serious. If you can pull it off, I'll donate $1 million to any charity of your choice. But if you fail, you'll owe me the same." Lucas hesitated for a moment, his pride warring with his better judgment. Finally, he smirked and raised his glass. "Betrayal." The room erupted in laughter and murmurs, but Lucas's gaze remained fixed on Emma. She had no idea what was about to unfold, and neither did he. The next morning, Emma Collins arrived at the penthouse for her usual cleaning shift. She had worked for the Harrington estate for a few months now, balancing this job with her full-time position as a librarian. The extra income helped her pay off her student loans and support her younger brother, who was still in college. Emma was used to being invisible in places like this. The wealthy residents rarely acknowledged her presence, and she preferred it that way. But today felt different. She could feel someone watching her. As she wiped down the marble countertop in the kitchen, a voice startled her. "Emma, isn't it?" She turned to see Lucas Harrington leaning casually against the doorway, his hands in his pockets. His sharp suit from the night before had been replaced with a more relaxed outfit, but he still exuded the same air of confidence. "Yes, sir?" Emma replied cautiously, unsure why he was addressing her. Lucas smiled, though it didn't quite reach his eyes. "I need to talk to you about something. Do you have a moment?" Emma hesitated. "If it's about the cleaning, I can assure you—" "It's not about the cleaning," Lucas interrupted, waving a hand dismissively. "It's a proposal." Emma blinked, confused. "A proposal?" Lucas stepped closer, his tone shifting to something more serious. I have a business proposition for you. It's unconventional, but it could solve a lot of your problems. Emma frowned, her instincts immediately on high alert. What kind of proposition? Lucas took a deep breath, as if preparing himself. I want you to marry me. For 3 months. The words hung in the air, absurd and impossible. Emma stared at him, waiting for the punchline, but it never came. Excuse me, she said, her voice sharp. It's not what you think, Lucas said quickly. This wouldn't be a real marriage. It's more of a contract. You'd live with me, attend a few events, and play the role of my wife. In return, I'll pay you enough to cover your debts and then some. Emma's jaw tightened. You want me to pretend to be your wife? Why on earth would I agree to something like that? Lucas's expression remained calm, but there was a flicker of frustration in his eyes. I know it sounds ridiculous, but think about it. You're struggling to make ends meet, right? This could change everything for you. 3 months, and you'd never have to worry about money again. Emma crossed her arms, her voice laced with disbelief. And what do you get out of this arrangement? Lucas hesitated for a fraction of a second before replying. Let's just say it's a personal challenge, something I need to prove to myself. Emma's eyes narrowed. This sounds like a game to you. My life isn't a game, Mr. Harrington. Lucas sighed, running a hand through his hair. I'm not trying to insult you, Emma. I'm offering you an opportunity. You'd be helping me, and I'd be helping you. It's a win-win. Emma shook her head, her mind racing. The idea was absurd, insulting even, but the mention of her debts and her brother's tuition gnawed at her resolve. She had worked so hard to keep her family afloat, and this could be the solution she desperately needed. I need time to think about it, she said finally, her voice cold. Lucas nodded, as if he had expected this response. Take all the time you need, but don't take too long. Opportunities like this don't come around often. As Lucas walked away, Emma felt a mix of anger and confusion. She didn't trust him, not for a second, but as she thought about the mounting bills and the sacrifices her family had made, she couldn't help but wonder, was this her way out? A week later, Emma found herself standing in front of Lucas Harrington's sprawling estate, a suitcase in hand and a knot of anxiety tightening in her stomach. Against her better judgment, she had agreed to his proposal. The money he offered was too significant to ignore. It would pay off her debts, cover her brother's tuition, and even allow her to save for the future. But as she stared at the grand entrance, she couldn't shake the feeling that she was walking into a trap. Lucas greeted her at the door, his usual air of confidence intact. "Welcome home," he said with a smirk, gesturing for her to come inside. Emma stepped into the house, her eyes scanning the luxurious interior. Everything about the place screamed wealth and excess, from the crystal chandeliers to the marble floors. It was a world she didn't belong to, and she felt it in every fiber of her being. Your room is upstairs, Lucas said, leading her down a hallway. We'll be sharing the house, but don't worry, I'm not expecting anything personal. This is strictly business. Emma shot him a glare. Good, let's keep it that way. Despite her sharp tone, Lucas only chuckled. I like your spirit, Emma. This might actually be fun. The first few days were a whirlwind of adjustments. Lucas wasted no time introducing Emma to his world, dragging her to high society events and dinners where she was expected to play the role of his wife. At their first event, a charity gala, Emma felt completely out of place. She wore a designer dress Lucas had picked out for her, but it didn't make her feel any less awkward. The women at the event eyed her with thinly veiled judgment, their whispers following her wherever she went. Who is she? One woman murmured to another. She doesn't look like his type at all. Emma clenched her fists, forcing herself to smile through the discomfort. Lucas, on the other hand, seemed completely at ease, charming the crowd with his wit and charisma. When they returned home that night, Emma confronted him. Do you enjoy parading me around like some kind of trophy? Lucas raised an eyebrow, clearly amused. You're not a trophy, Emma. You're my wife. At least, that's what they're supposed to believe. Emma glared at him. "This isn't a game to me, Lucas. I'm not here to entertain your friends or boost your ego." Lucas's smirk faded, and for a moment he looked almost serious. "You agreed to this, Emma. If you want the money, you have to play the part. That's the deal." Emma stormed off to her room, slamming the door behind her. She hated how powerless she felt, trapped in a situation she couldn't escape. Despite their constant clashes, there were moments when Lucas and Emma's dynamic began to shift. One evening, Emma found Lucas in his study, staring at a stack of papers with a frustrated expression. She hesitated before stepping inside. "Everything okay?" she asked cautiously. Lucas looked up, surprised by her concern. "Just business. A deal fell through and it's going to cost me." Emma nodded, unsure of what to say. "Well, maybe it's not about the money. Maybe it's about finding something that actually matters to you." Lucas laughed, though there was no humor in it. "You sound like my father. He used to say things like that before he lost everything." Emma tilted her head, curious. "What happened to him?" Lucas hesitated, then shrugged. "Bad investments. He trusted the wrong people. I swore I'd never make the same mistake." For the first time, Emma saw a glimpse of vulnerability in Lucas. It was fleeting, but it made her wonder if there was more to him than the arrogant businessman he pretended to be. As the weeks went on, Emma began to find her footing in Lucas's world. At another charity event, she noticed a waiter being berated by one of the guests for spilling a drink. Without hesitation, Emma stepped in. "That's enough," she said firmly, drawing the attention of the room. "It was an accident. There's no need to humiliate him." The guest looked taken aback, but Lucas stepped in before things could escalate. "My wife is right," he said smoothly, placing a hand on Emma's shoulder. "Let's not make a scene." Later that night, as they drove home, Lucas turned to Emma. "You didn't have to do that, you know." Emma shrugged. "Someone had to. Just because people have money doesn't mean they can treat others like dirt." Lucas was silent for a moment before nodding. "You're braver than most people I know." Emma glanced at him, surprised by the sincerity in his voice. Lucas, too, began to show signs of change. One afternoon, Emma found him in the kitchen, helping one of the staff prepare lunch. "What are you doing?" she asked, raising an eyebrow. Lucas grinned. "Learning how to make a sandwich. Turns out I'm not as useless as I thought." Emma couldn't help but laugh. It was a small moment, but it felt significant. Despite these moments of connection, the tension between them never fully disappeared. Lucas's friends continued to treat Emma like an outsider, and Lucas himself often reverted to his arrogant ways. One night, after a particularly heated argument, Emma confronted him. "Why do you even care about this stupid bet? Is your pride really worth all of this?" Lucas didn't answer right away. When he finally spoke, his voice was quiet. "It's not about the bet anymore." Emma stared at him, unsure of what to say. For the first time, she wondered if Lucas's feelings for her were starting to change, and if hers were too. The weeks passed, and Emma began to feel a strange sense of comfort in her new life. While she still didn't fully trust Lucas, she couldn't deny that he had changed, at least a little. He was less arrogant, more thoughtful, and even seemed to enjoy her company. She found herself laughing at his jokes, sharing stories about her family, and, against her better judgment, letting her guard down. But the fragile peace between them shattered one fateful evening. Lucas had invited Emma to another high-profile event, a dinner party hosted by his closest friend, Nathan. Emma had grown used to these gatherings, though she still felt out of place among the wealthy and glamorous guests. She wore a simple but elegant dress Lucas had chosen for her, and, for once, she felt almost confident. The evening started smoothly enough. Lucas stayed by her side, introducing her to his business associates and even defending her when someone made a snide comment about her background. Emma began to think that maybe, just maybe, this arrangement wasn't as terrible as she had thought. But then, as the night wore on, she overheard a conversation that made her blood run cold. Emma had stepped away from the table to get some air, wandering into the quiet garden outside. As she rounded a corner, she heard voices. Lucas and Nathan, deep in conversation. "You've really outdone yourself, Lucas," Nathan said, his tone dripping with amusement. "I didn't think you'd actually go through with it." Lucas's voice was calm, almost casual. "You doubted me? Come on, Nathan. You know I never back down from a challenge." Nathan laughed. "Still, I have to admit, I'm impressed. You've managed to keep her around for this long. I thought she'd run the moment she found out about the bet." Emma froze, her heart pounding in her chest. Lucas chuckled. "She doesn't know, and she won't. Not until the 3 months are up." Nathan's voice turned teasing. "You're playing a dangerous game, my friend. What if she finds out? Or worse, what if you actually start to care about her?" There was a long pause before Lucas replied, his voice quieter this time. "It's just a bet, Nathan." That's all it ever was. Emma felt like the ground had been ripped out from under her. She turned and walked away, her mind racing. The warmth she had started to feel toward Lucas, the moments of connection, they had all been a lie. When Lucas returned to the house later that night, he found Emma waiting for him in the living room. Her arms were crossed, her expression cold and unreadable. "Emma," he said, surprised, "you're still up?" She didn't answer right away. Instead, she stared at him, her eyes searching his face for any sign of the man she thought she had started to know. "How long were you planning to keep it from me?" she asked finally, her voice steady but laced with anger. Lucas frowned. "What are you talking about?" "The bet," Emma said, her tone sharp. "I heard everything, Lucas. You and Nathan. This whole marriage. It's just a game to you, isn't it?" Lucas's face paled. "Emma, I can explain." "Don't," she snapped, cutting him off. "Don't you dare try to justify this. You lied to me. You used me." "It wasn't like that," Lucas said, his voice desperate. "At first, yes, it was about the bet. But things changed. I changed." Emma laughed bitterly. "Changed? You expect me to believe that? You've been lying to me from the start, Lucas. Everything you've done, everything you've said, it's all been a lie." Lucas stepped closer, his expression pleading. "Emma, please. I know I've made mistakes, but I swear, it's not just a game anymore. I care about you." Emma shook her head, tears welling in her eyes. "You don't care about me, Lucas. You care about winning. That's all you've ever cared about." She turned and walked toward the door, grabbing her coat on the way out. "Emma, wait," Lucas called after her. She stopped and looked back at him, her voice trembling. "I trusted you, Lucas. I thought you were different, but I was wrong." With that, she walked out, leaving Lucas standing alone in the empty room. For the first time in his life, Lucas felt truly lost. He had always prided himself on his ability to control every situation, to bend people and circumstances to his will, but now, as he stood in the silence of his grand estate, he realized that he had lost the one thing that truly mattered. Emma wasn't just part of a bet anymore. She had become something more, someone who challenged him, inspired him, and made him want to be better. And now, because of his arrogance and pride, she was gone. Lucas sank into a chair, his head in his hands. He had won the bet, but at what cost? The days after Emma left were the loneliest Lucas Harrington had ever experienced. His sprawling estate, once filled with the hum of activity and the laughter of guests, now felt cold and empty. He tried to distract himself with work, throwing himself into meetings and deals, but nothing could shake the hollow ache in his chest. For the first time in his life, Lucas was forced to confront the truth. He had built his entire world on shallow foundations. His wealth, his success, his reputation, they all meant nothing without someone like Emma to share it with. Determined to make things right, Lucas began to reevaluate his priorities. He started small, reaching out to the people he had overlooked or mistreated in the past. He apologized to his staff for his arrogance, offering them better pay and benefits. He donated a significant portion of his wealth to local charities, including one that supported education, something he knew Emma cared deeply about. But it wasn't enough. Lucas knew that no amount of money or good deeds could erase the pain he had caused Emma. If he wanted her to forgive him, he would have to prove that he had truly changed. Meanwhile, Emma was trying to rebuild her life. She had returned to her small apartment, picking up extra shifts at the library to make ends meet. The money Lucas had promised her was still sitting in her bank account untouched. She couldn't bring herself to use it. It felt tainted, a reminder of the betrayal she had endured. Her friends noticed the change in her. She was quieter, more withdrawn, but whenever they asked what was wrong, she brushed them off with a forced smile. One evening, as she was shelving books at the library, Emma overheard two patrons talking about Lucas Harrington. "Did you hear? Lucas Harrington donated a fortune to the city's education fund. He's even volunteering at the community center downtown." Emma froze, her heart skipping a beat. She hadn't expected to hear his name again, let alone in such a context. "Why would someone like him do that?" one of the patrons asked. The other shrugged. "Who knows? Maybe he's trying to make up for something." Emma couldn't stop thinking about it. Was Lucas really changing, or was this just another one of his games? A week later, Emma received an unexpected letter in the mail. The envelope was simple, with no return address, but she recognized Lucas's handwriting immediately. "Dear Emma, I know I'm the last person you want to hear from, but I need to say this. I'm sorry. Not just for the bet, but for everything, for lying to you, for using you, for not seeing your worth from the start. You were right about me. I've spent my whole life chasing things that don't matter, and in the process I hurt the one person who made me want to be better. I don't expect you to forgive me, but I want you to know that I'm trying to change. Not for the bet, not for anyone else, for me. Because you showed me that there's more to life than money and power. If you ever want to talk, I'll be at the community center on 5th Street every Saturday. No pressure, no expectations, just... Thank you, Emma, for everything. Lucas." Emma read the letter twice, her emotions swirling. Part of her wanted to tear it up and forget about him, but another part, a quieter, more vulnerable part, wondered if he was sincere. The following Saturday, Emma found herself standing outside the community center, her heart pounding. She had told herself she wasn't coming, that she didn't care what Lucas was doing, but her feet had carried her here anyway. Inside, she saw Lucas surrounded by a group of children, helping them paint a mural on the wall. He was laughing, his suit replaced by a simple t-shirt and jeans, his hands covered in paint. For a moment, Emma just watched him, unsure of what to feel. He looked different, more relaxed, more human. Lucas noticed her then, his eyes widening in surprise. He stood up, wiping his hands on a rag as he approached her. "Emma," he said softly, his voice filled with a mix of hope and uncertainty. "You came." She crossed her arms, her expression guarded. "I'm not here to forgive you, Lucas. I wanted to see if you were serious." Lucas nodded, his gaze steady. "I understand, and I don't expect anything from you. I just want you to know that I'm trying. Because of you." Emma studied him for a long moment, searching for any sign of the man he used to be. But all she saw was sincerity. Over the next few weeks, Emma began to visit the community center more often. She told herself it was for the kids, not for Lucas, but she couldn't deny that seeing him there working, laughing, and genuinely caring softened something inside her. Lucas never pushed her, never asked for more than she was willing to give. He simply showed up, day after day, proving through his actions that he was no longer the man she had walked away from. One evening, as they were cleaning up after an event, Lucas turned to her. "Emma, I know I don't deserve a second chance, but I need you to know that I'm not giving up, not on myself and not on you." Emma looked at him, her heart aching with a mix of emotions. "Lucas, I don't know if I can trust you again." "I understand," he said quietly, "but I'll keep trying, for as long as it takes." It had been 3 months since Emma first walked out of Lucas's life, and in that time, everything had changed. Lucas was no longer the arrogant, self-absorbed man she had once known. He had become someone who cared, someone who gave back, someone who had learned to put others before himself. But despite all his efforts, Emma still kept her distance. She visited the community center regularly, helping with events and spending time with the kids, but she remained guarded around Lucas. He didn't push her, respecting her boundaries, but he couldn't deny the growing hope in his heart. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, Lucas decided it was time to take a leap of faith. Emma received a text from Lucas that afternoon, asking her to meet him at the community center after hours. She hesitated, unsure if she should go, but curiosity got the better of her. When she arrived, she found the center's small garden transformed. Twinkling lights hung from the trees, casting a warm glow over the space. A path of rose petals led to a small table set with candles and a simple bouquet of wildflowers. Emma's breath caught in her throat. She turned to see Lucas standing at the end of the path, dressed in a crisp white shirt and slacks, his hands clasped nervously in front of him. Finally expressing herself as she feels, she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Lucas smiled, though there was a hint of nervousness in his expression. "It's something I should have done a long time ago." He stepped closer, his eyes never leaving hers. "Emma, I know I've hurt you. I know I've made mistakes more than I can count, but these past few months you've shown me what it means to be a better person. You've taught me that life isn't about money or power. It's about the people we care about, the people who make us want to be better." Emma's heart ached as she listened, her emotions swirling. Lucas took a deep breath, his voice steady but filled with emotion. "I don't deserve your forgiveness, and I don't deserve you. But I love you, Emma. Not because of the bet, not because of anything I thought I wanted before. I love you because you're strong, kind, and everything I didn't know I needed." He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small velvet box. Dropping to one knee, he opened it to reveal a simple but elegant ring. "Emma Collins, will you give me the chance to spend the rest of my life proving to you that I've changed? Will you marry me, not for a bet, not for money, but because I love you?" Emma stared at him, her heart pounding. She had spent so long guarding herself, afraid to trust him again, but in this moment, she saw the truth in his eyes. This wasn't the Lucas Harrington she had met months ago. This was someone new, someone who had fought to become better, not for himself, but for her. Tears welled in her eyes as she stepped closer. "Lucas, I don't know if I can forget what happened, but I can see that you've changed, and maybe I can learn to trust you again." Lucas's breath hitched, hope lighting up his face. "Does that mean?" Emma smiled through her tears. "Yes, Lucas, I'll marry you." Lucas stood, slipping the ring onto her finger before pulling her into a tight embrace. For the first time in months, Emma felt a sense of peace. This wasn't the perfect fairy tale she had imagined as a child, but it was real. It was messy, complicated, and imperfect, but it was theirs. As they stood together under the twinkling lights, Lucas whispered, "Thank you, Emma, for giving me a second chance." Emma rested her head against his chest, her voice soft. "Don't make me regret it, Lucas." He chuckled, holding her closer. "I won't, I promise." Emma and Lucas decided to keep their wedding small and intimate, far from the extravagant events Lucas's world was known for. They chose the community center garden, the place where their journey toward forgiveness and love had truly begun. On a crisp autumn afternoon, surrounded by close friends, children from the community center, and a few of Lucas's staff who had become like family, they exchanged vows. Emma wore a simple white dress, her hair adorned with wildflowers, while Lucas stood beside her in a tailored suit, his eyes never leaving hers. "I promise to love you, to respect you, and to never take you for granted," Lucas said, his voice steady but filled with emotion. "You've taught me what it means to truly care for someone, and I'll spend the rest of my life proving that I'm worthy of your love." Emma smiled, her voice trembling as she replied, "I promise to trust you, to believe in you, and to stand by your side. You've shown me that people can change, and I'm ready to start this new chapter with you." As they exchanged rings, the crowd erupted into cheers, the children clapping and laughing with joy. For the first time in a long time, Emma felt truly happy. In the months that followed, Emma and Lucas worked together to build a life that was meaningful and fulfilling. Lucas continued his work at the community center, using his resources to expand its programs and provide more opportunities for underprivileged children. Emma, inspired by his dedication, started teaching art classes at the center, helping kids express themselves through creativity. Their relationship wasn't perfect. There were still moments of doubt, arguments, and misunderstandings, but they faced each challenge together, learning and growing as a team. One evening, as they sat on the porch of their modest new home, Emma looked out at the sunset and smiled. "You know," she said, turning to Lucas, "if someone had told me a year ago that I'd be here with you, I would have laughed in their face." Lucas chuckled, wrapping an arm around her shoulders. "And if someone had told me I'd give up my high society lifestyle to spend my days painting murals and teaching kids how to play soccer, I would have done the same." Emma laughed, leaning into him. "Life's funny like that, isn't it?" Lucas nodded, his expression soft. "It is, but I wouldn't trade this for anything." Their story became a quiet inspiration to those around them. It wasn't about grand gestures or fairy tale endings. It was about the power of change, forgiveness, and the courage to take a chance on love, even when it seemed impossible. As Emma and Lucas sat together, watching the sun dip below the horizon, they knew that their journey was far from over. But for the first time, they were ready to face whatever came next together. Thank you so much for watching this story on Emma's Stories. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the channel for more heartwarming tales about life, love, and transformation. Your support means the world to us and helps us bring more inspiring stories to life. Also, let us know your thoughts in the comments below. What would you have done in Emma's situation? We'd love to hear from you.